I'm Timothée Larivière. I'm a software engineer at The Edge in Paris. I'm a Microsoft MVP, and today we'll see Fabulous, for which I'm a maintainer. So you can find me on GitHub and Twitter. So we're at the handles you can find on this slide. So let's start. So tonight we'll see how to make mobile development simple with F# and Fabulous. So before seeing what is Fabulous, I will see a quick reminder for the .NET developers, or just a presentation for those who are not familiar with .NET. So in .NET, the mobile development stories is Xamarin. So it's a set of SDKs that allows you to do native mobile development with .NET. So be it C#, F#, or Visual Basic. So it's really just a wrapper around the existing SDKs provided by the various constructors. So you will find the Xamarin iOS SDK, the Xamarin Android SDK. Windows is a bit of a special story since it's already Microsoft, so it's already using .NET behind the scenes. So there is no wrappers for it. But for iOS and Android, you will have the exact same APIs that you would have if you did a Swift development or Java development for Android, except this time it's available in .NET, so you can use it and call those APIs directly with C#. So it's really just a thin wrapper around the existing SDKs. So when you create such applications, you in fact have to create a whole native application, including the UI. So the UI, you will have, like for iOS, you will have a storyboard where you will position your controls, put a UI button, a UI label, and so on. On Android, you will have the same thing with the XML files. And on Windows, you will have the same thing with XAML files. So what you can share between the three platforms, if you were doing an application that is cross-platform, you can only share what is called here the C# backend. So it's not really C#, it's really .NET. So you can share all your business logic or all your UI logic directly thanks to .NET. So all the three platforms will use a single .NET logic, but all UIs will be really specific to one platform. So you will have to write as many UIs as you have platforms for all your application. So it can be a great thing, but sometimes you really want to make the exact same application across all the various platforms. So for that, Microsoft created Xamarin Forms that can let you share your UI with a single description that is called XAML. And in this XAML file, you will have it's really an XML file with tags, and each tags correspond to a control. Like you will have a grid control, a button control, and so on. And each of those controls will map to a native control. So, for example, if we take the button examples, we'll have one Xamarin Forms button that will be translated at runtime to a UI button on iOS, to an Android button on Android, and to a Windows button on Windows. So Xamarin Forms lets you share the most part of your UI, including your backend. So it can be great things for when you're creating the same application across multiple platforms. But the thing is that most UI frameworks today, including Xamarin and Xamarin Forms, are tailored for object-oriented programming. So OOP, which is widely available like on languages like C#, Java, Swift, JavaScript, and many others. So what you will have is really a static views. So you will have a description of your UI where you say that there is a button here, there is an image there, and it can't really change anything. If you can't, you will have to do a backend logic to tell this image needs to change to point to another image, or this label should be hidden when my users does not have the specific right. So you have to handle it yourself. So it relies on mutability. You have to modify the state of your application to change your UI. So we'll see why that's maybe a problem later. And since it's mutable, it's hard to ensure that the state of your application is consistent. So meaning, like if your user clicks on 2 buttons at the same time, chances are you already experienced like crashes because there are some two things at once try to access the same resource that was not available, and everything crashed. So that can be a problem, but it has been object-oriented programming for the UI development has been used for many years. So it's already a regret, but can we do better? So here's an example of a Xamarin Forms file. So it's written very small, but just to give you an example, that's the kind of XML file you need to write in Xamarin Forms, and the content of this file will be translated at runtime into onto the UI for the specific platform. So you really have something that is very native. So here we have, for example, for the list, we will have a table view controller. And for Android, we will have a list view. So it's really the native control that is used, even though we have something that is custom and for Xamarin Forms in our code. So regarding F#, so F# is part of .NET. So it's another language like C# and Visual Basic. It's a functional first programming language, meaning it's not only a functional programming language. It's a language that lets you do functional programming. So it's tailored for that, but it can also use object-oriented programming principles, and so you can really interact with all the existing .NET ecosystem. So if you have already a lot of code that is written in C#, or you want to use that third-party library that is very widely used, like Newtonsoft.json or something like that, you can, because everything is .NET. So F# can let you consume those libraries. You can use them like it's really a part of the .NET. So a few key points regarding F# is that it's immutable by default. So in object-oriented programming, by default, all the objects are mutable, so you can change their properties. Like if you have a student class with a property called last name, first name, you can change it after you have created the object. To set it to another name, to set it to another value. But in F# it's not the case. By default, it's immutable, so you can change it. To change it, you'll have to duplicate the value, to copy it, and then while copying, you can change the value to create a brand new student object with the updated last name and first name. So here it's a bit abstract what I'm saying, but we'll see in an example just after that in an example program. And also F# is non-nullable by default, meaning that you can't set an object to null in F#. So this remove a whole class of errors. So you don't need to be wary of having a null values, of receiving null values, because in F# it could be allowed by default. So when your function receives an object, you can be sure that it will never be null. Whereas in C# you can't be sure, so you have to either check it with if not null, or assuming that it's fine, and it's not null. But 6 months later in production, you see that it's not really, it was null, and it may be null, so it will be crashing. And the last point is that F# uses expression instead of statements. So statements is like giving orders. So you say my student change name. My students get to set grades or something like that. So you mutate the student object with a method to change its state. Whereas in F# you will have expressions. So expression does not change the state of the object, since it's by default it's immutable. Instead, it will give you a new state with the updated value. So it's really, when you call a function, it will always give you another value instead of mutating the first value. So we'll see all those examples in a demo later. So F# is great for everyone because what I call here FP, functional programming, is really not hard to learn. It's just a different way of approaching the same concepts. So it's all the same things that object-oriented programming, except written in the different manner. And you need way less design patterns to start working efficiently on functional programming languages. And today, what is considered good code is already uses many functional concepts. Like if you're used to .NET, you can surely use already LINQ, which is really functional in its core concept. So you chain where, select, and many other functions that will give you a different result than the initial data source. But if you're a web developer, I'm sure you already use React, which is also very functional in how it works. So already you're already used to many functional concepts. So switching to a functional language like F# is really not difficult. And F# is has some pros to it. So it's more concise. So you have less noise, like the parentheses, like the brackets and the semicolons and a lot of things. You also have type inference. So we'll see that later. Type inference is that the compilers know which type you're using without you having to write it. So if you're used to C#, you will really use a var my variable equals a string, and the compiler already knows that var is string. But in F# it's way more advanced than that. It can really just infers itself what type you're using depending on how you're using your variable. It's also more reliable because you have no null by default, so you don't need to be aware. You need to be wary of having nulls in your code, so you can't. There is less chance to have a null reference exception in your code. It's also immutable by default. So meaning that if you're doing a lot of parallel work or calling many functions one after the other, you don't need to worry about having something that will change midway that you were not expecting to. Since it's all immutable, and to mutate something, you have to copy and to make a copy of it. Meaning that if you're receiving parameters, you can be certain that that parameter will never change while you're using it. And also there is something called pure functions. So pure functions is a function that don't have any side effects. So we'll see that later also. Side effects is when you're doing something that the function is changing the state of something, like sending an email or accessing the disk to get a file or something like that. That's something that is cannot be reproducible all the time. like calling an API that can fail or something like that. Pure function is really like you give it some parameters, it will always give the same output for the same input. It's really great to use pure functions. And also we have, and also F# have a richer time system. So there is many other kind of type, not just classes and structs, but also discriminated unions and records. So all those things are slowly being added to C#, but not in the same full way than the F#. And also there's something called package matching that makes it that simple to work with a discriminated union, and which Fabulous uses a lot. So we'll see that. So what actually is Fabulous? So Fabulous is an open source framework that you can find on GitHub at github.com/fsproject/Fabulous. So it has been created in 2018 by Don Syme, which is the F# language designer at Microsoft Research. So Fabulous brings functional programming concepts to existing .NET and mobile frameworks, just like Xamarin Forms we saw earlier. It also brings the model view update architecture, so MVU for short. It uses declarative UI programming. So contrary to Xamarin Forms, which where you add an XML file with all your content described in it, and that can only be changed if you add C# code next to it to update it. In Fabulous, you will have something like what there is on the right of the screen, where you have a function that really is just F# code, where you describe your UI, and you can use advanced construct like functions directly in your UI, or even for loops. So you can use anything that is available in the language to create your view. So it's really powerful. And so, like I said, the complete application is done in only one single language, F#. So the neat thing with Fabulous is that you have also Fabulous Live Update that can reload your application without having you restarting it. So it's way quicker to develop that way, because compiling the application, running the simulator, starting the application on the simulator is quite a slow process. It can take like 30 seconds easily. But with Live Updates, it's already only a matter of a couple of seconds to see all your changes after you hit save. So let's build an app. Okay, so we know we only need two command lines to get started. So we are using the .NET CLI that comes with either with Visual Studio or Visual Studio for Mac, depending on the platform you're developing on. By default, the Fabulous will work on Android and iOS, but you also have WPF, UWP, macOS, and GTK available as the optional arguments that you can add to the second command line. If you want to know more, you have the link at the bottom for the documentation. So let's start. So now I can install with the .NET New -i Fabulous Xamarin Forms templates. I will try to. Okay. I will zoom on the. Hopla. Zoom. Oh, not that one. Bigger. That's this one. Okay. Oh, that's a lot of .NET New, but okay. Let's do that and okay. Xamarin Forms templates. Okay, so it's installing. Okay, so now when we will call .NET New, we have access to all those predefined templates, including the Fabulous Xamarin Forms that you can find under the short name Fabulous-XF-app that is available for F#. So now if I write .NET New Fabulous XF app -n, so here with -n, it's a shortcut for -name. So let's call it Squeaky app. So here it will create the default solution and with Android and iOS. So it actually asks me if I want to restore Fabulous CLI, which will let me use a live update later on. So let's say yes, 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 okay. Okay, so now let's open the project. Okay, so I'm currently on macOS. So on macOS, you can either use Visual Studio for Mac or JetBrains Rider. If you're on Windows, you can use Visual Studio. You just need to install the Xamarin workload to get started. And it does not let me click on anything. Okay, right? Right. Let's try again. Right, that's the bug. Okay, let's try to open it in a different way. So Squeaky app. Okay, so now it's currently restoring the packages, but you can see on the left, let's try to something bigger. No. It's different. Okay. Okay, so we have three projects. So it's like Xamarin Forms. It's using the same project. So those two are actually Xamarin Android and Xamarin iOS projects. So that's exactly the same thing that you would do if you were to write native applications using .NET for Android and iOS. So you have all the same files. You have the main activity. You have the main activity for Android. You have the app delegate for iOS. So that's really just pure native code, except it's starting the application. So you have the Squeaky app load application. And those two have a reference to the shared project where we have our code. So this one is our Fabulous application. So we have, let's start it while I'm explaining the code. Okay, tac. It's quite big. Okay, so now I have all the code. So we can see that there's two parts for this. There is the module app and the type app. So the type application is this one application is Xamarin Forms. So it's really using a Xamarin Forms application behind the scene. Just that we need to create a class for it, but we start our application using Xamarin Forms program.run app. And this Xamarin Forms program.run will start our application program. So our program here is our Fabrice application using something called the MVU architecture. So we have the model that represent our states, our application state. So it's really described fully in this object. So this syntax is called the record, like I was explaining before. So the record here is our model, also known as the state of the application, but we store all the information that we need to make our application work. Then we have the messages that what will happen in our application. So only those are allowed to have an impact on the state of the application. So we will use them to when I click on the increment button, it will send an increment message that will allow us to increment our count, that will change the value displayed on top of it. Okay, and we in part with the MVU architecture, we really have three independent functions. So we have the init function that will return our initial model or the initial state of the application when it starts. So here we'll say that when the application starts, it will have a count equals to 0, a step equals to 1. So the step is this slider here. And the timer that is toggled off. And we have, once we have the initial state, what Fabulous will do is we will call the view function here to know what is the UI that needs to be displayed for the specific state. So here we have a content page with a stack layout inside of it, with a label, a button, many buttons, a label, switch, sliders, and so on. So everything here is what we can find here. So using this this model, we can create everything. So, like for example, for instance, if we take a look at the first level, so it currently it's saying 6, and so it's taking that value from the model. So here we have label text equals printf the model count d, but it can be simplified to just string. So that's basically what we are doing here. So just we take the value of our model at one point in time, and we are setting it to the property of the control we want to display. So here our label will be have a text equals to the count value of the model, and we'll have a few other properties for the style. So we'll center the text horizontally. We'll have a width of 200 pixels, and you can define all of your UI like that. And for the button, it's the same thing. And like when you click on the button, so we call the command function. So we're just passing it a function that will dispatch our increment message that we saw earlier. So that's how we do interaction. And when that message is sent, Fabius will call the update function here with the message just being received, so the increment message, and the current state of the application. And we'll say that for when the message is increment, we'll change the model by doing the correct changes to it. So here we we increment the count by the step. So that's what I was saying earlier, that this is called the pattern matching. So the match something with, and then after put a pipe, the value you want to match on, and an arrow to tell what you want to do with it. So like here in this instance, we receive the message increment, and it will match on this line and do the computation after it. And also we can see that that how we handle the mutation of the values. So when you have the model here is a record type, so it is immutable. You can change it, but you can copy it with the with syntax and change one or more of its properties. So here we duplicate the model and we set a different count for it. So that's how it changes the thing. And since it's a functional programming, this line here is actually the result of the function. So update here will return the result of this. So it will return a new state for the application. And Fabius will get that state and call once again the view function with the new state passed in parameter. So here you can define what you want to display for that specific state. And Fabius will do the diffing between the previous UI you wanted with the new UI you want and apply all the changes. So here, if I click on the increment button, you will send two UIs, so one with 11 and one with 12. And Fabius will see that the label has changed and will update it on the screen. So that's how it works. So this is all the code you need to make a complete application. So it's quite small compared to what you would have to do to in other UI frameworks like Xamarin Forms. Okay, so let's dive a little deeper in MVU. So like just I presented, you have 5 parts of the MVU architecture. So you have the state, what we saw is the model. We have the messages that the view can send to update the state. And you have 3 functions, the init function that will tell you the initial state of the application, the update function that will receive the message and reuse the current model to generate a new model, and the view function that will use the model to define what should be shown on the screen. So the advantages of MVU is that it's quite simple. So like you saw, it's just 5 components, so 5 parts of that were really simple to write. It uses immutable state, so you don't have any more any problem with things that mutated, or when you have once I worked on a project that handled a quite complex map on a device, and many things were happening at the same time on that map, and just making sure that we had always a correct state was really hard, because everything was mutating it. So it was really hard to know what was happening when we had the bug report. So all that is removed with the immutable state. You can mutate the state outside of the update function when you receive a message. And also all that is centralized and make everything explicit. Like when you want to change your UI, all your UI is always defined in the same function, the view function. All your initial state is always defined in the same functions, the init functions. And when you want to change your state, it's necessary for you to pass to send a message. So the update function can change the state of your application. So everything is made explicit rather than implicit in other UI frameworks. So for new developers, it's really easy to come in the code base because everything is really described and it's super simple. So it's really easy to understand what is happening. And also you do have no concurrency issues with Faebulous because Faebulous works in will put all the messages one after the other. So we can't have two messages arriving at the same time. It will treat it one after the other. So you don't have any concurrency issues because all the messages are only treated one after the other. And also it's really easy to unit test or to just to test your application because everything is using pure functions, like I said just earlier. It's always receiving parameters that won't change and always returning a result. So it's super easy to unit test. Okay, so let's make a little demo this time with the Christmas shopping list. Okay, so I will close the solution. Save. I will create another application. So this time I will create the Christmas shopping list. Just like before, it creates the Android and iOS projects. And we can start working on it. It's like before, it's bugged, so I will open it manually. Oh. Okay, so this time let's wait for it to restore the packages and let's switch to iOS. Look. Okay, so like before, I will just start the application. And I will monitor the output because this time I will start the live update so we can see in real time my changes. So to use the live update, you'll need to go in the directory of the application, so in the shared directory. So this time, I go in my solution, CD Christmas shopping list, and I will go on my shared project, so, this one. And I forgot to enable it. So to enable a live update in your code, by default, the template will give you something called do runner enable live updates that you need to uncomment. So just uncomment that line, start the debugging. And when it starts, it will output in the console the command line you need to put in your terminal to start watching the code so it can recompile and change the application in the emulator. So live update also works on the real device. So if I had a real device that I plugged in USB, I could also use live update. So we can see here that live update is ready. So I can just copy the command and paste it here. So it's a .NET Faebulous --watch --webhook. So here the IP address is the IP address of my emulator. So I just enter it. It's okay. So now it's watching my file, the Christmas shopping list.fs. It's waiting for changes. So if I were to change the content of something like, let's say I change the increment button to say add. So I still haven't saved my file. So here the little circle tells me that I have changes. But as soon as I hit save, the console application detects the changes and recompiles it, and it will send to the application and update it. So here now we have the add the text that I did, and we can pretty much change all the application for it, and it will recompile and push the content on the emulator. So that's pretty neat because you can see in near real time all your changes. Okay, so now I want to make a Christmas shopping list. So what do I need for that? I will need a list of gifts, and I will need something to add a new gift to that list. I will need to somehow make to check out the gift, so I can say I already bought that one. So that's done. So let's start by saying that I want to add a new type. So it's called the gift type. That has a name. So it's a name of type string. And I want also to have a flag to tell me if I bought the gift or not. Okay, so we just need that. And for the state of my application, what do I need to put in the state of my application? I will need a list of gifts. So let's add a gift that is a list of gifts. So that's really simple. You can just write gift list, and that's good. But now I have a lot of compilation error because I changed the type. So let's clean that up. So just to remove that one, my init function will return me a gift list that is empty. I have no gift for when I start the application. Let's clean that up. Let's remove all the messages. So no messages for now. Let's say just so I can compile the application. I will say that I don't change anything in my state for now, and I will have an empty page for now with a stack layout. So stack layout is a stack layout or something called a stack panel. So it's really just putting each child one below the other. So it's really just stacking them. So either vertically or horizontally. So we'll have, for now, let's just display a label that will be our title. So we would say like my Christmas shopping list. And let's finish fixing the code. So here I'm making a simple program. So that way I can just see what should be. Okay, so I need. So one thing that you can see is that the parameters don't have any types defined for them, except for this one where it's explicitly added. So that's what I was saying before. It's a type inference. By default, it already knows what you're doing. So for instance, the init function tells you that it will return an app.model, which is our model here, because it saw that you wrote a gift equals a list. So it knows that it's a model here because it's the only type that matches. And for when you don't do anything specific with those parameters, by default, you can see here, it's maybe a little small, but you have an apostrophe and a letter. So by default, it will generate the code. So here it thinks that the model is a generic type. It doesn't know what it is. But, it says that it's a radio type. So here it's actually playing against me because it doesn't know what's happening since I'm not doing anything with them. So let's be explicit for now. So I hit save, and this time the watcher has compiled the application, and we already see that I have my label that is displayed. So we can go on with my label and style it a little. So let's say I want it to be bigger. So I will have a font size that will use something called the name size from Xamarin Forms, where I will say that I want it to be a size of titles. So it's bigger. Let's say I want it to be centered. So I will say horizontal text alignment. So I will set it to center. And here now I have my label that is bigger and centered and in near real time. Okay, so now I have my gifts that I want to display. So for that, I will display a list view. So this list view here, I will make a for loop. So for each gift in my model.gifts, I want it to return a new cell in my list. So here we will have a view cell. And in my view cell, I will have a stack layout that will display. For now, I will display the label, which will contain the text that is the name of my gift. And I will also add a checkbox to know if I bought the gift or not. So I will say that this checkbox is checked if my gift is bought. So now I save. We can see here is that iOS already added the lines to tell me that it's a list, but there is nothing in my list because my my initial state here is empty. But if I were to add an initial state, like let's say I wanted to have a gift that is a skateboard for Anna and is bought false. If I will save, we can see that now I have a skateboard for Anna. But we can see also that the styling is a bit off. So let's fix that. So here I see that my checkbox and my label are stacked vertically. I want them to be stacked horizontally. So I can just change that. I say orientation of my stack layout equals stack layout, stack orientation, horizontal, and it has children. It has those children. So let's format a little. Now my my label and my checkbox are stacked horizontally. So that's great, but I want my checkbox to be on the right. So for that, in Xamarin Forms, I need to use the layout option. So here I want it to be a horizontal option. Here I want my label to be start and expand. Yes, that one. So the start will say that it will be on the left of my layout. It expands. It takes all the remaining place. So it really pushes the checkbox on the right. And I would just center vertically, so I can go on and say vertical text alignment like later center. Now it's centered. Let's say I also want to add a bit of a padding here, so I can go on the stack layout and add padding equals like 10 pixels on both right and left, but 0 on top and down. So yeah, now I have some padding, so that's great. And I want, now that I have my list ready, what I want is to be able to add some other gift to that list. So after my list here, I will add another layout. So this one will be also stack layout. It will be horizontal. So like the last one, I will add horizontal. Children, stack. This time I want to have something called an entry. So an entry is a text box. And I want a button, so I can click on it and add it to add what I wrote in the text box in the list. So I will add the button, and this button will say add to list. Okay, so now we can see that I have my button here. So it's crushing my entry. So I will also tell my entry to take all the place that it can. So like the other label, I will say this time fill and expand. So fill tells that I want to take all the place. So my text box takes all the place. I will also add a bit of padding. Okay, good. So now if I go and write something and click add to the list, nothing happens because I do not wire anything other than just describing the UI. So what I need is to add the logic for adding what I wrote in the list. So for that, I will need to add a message to my application. So I can, when I click on the button, it will send the message with what I wrote, so it can be added to the list. So now I will say like add gift, and that's where the difference between the enums and discriminated unions in .NET is that for each entry of my messages, I can also attach it data. So this time I will attach what I wrote. So it will contain, in addition to the message, it will contain what I wrote in the entry. So this time I will match on message, and I will handle the add gift message. So one thing with the pattern matching is that it can tell you that the pattern match and the pattern is not complete, that we are missing one case. So for now, there are only one case, so I will add it. So that's the gift name. We will create new gift with name equals gift name, and is both equals false. We will add it to the existing list of gift in our model. So here I will gift, and in F# to add a new item to a list, we can use this syntax to add it to our list. So here I can just write this, and it will add the new gift to the gift list. And like I said, in F# everything is immutable, so it will not change the current gift list, but it will return a new list containing all the existing gift plus the new one. So same with the model. I will copy the model with a new gift list that is equal to the one I created just before. Okay, so now when I click on this button, it will change the list, but I did not add it. I did not add the message to my UI. So for my button, I will add a command. So when it's clicked, I wanted to execute a function that will call the dispatch function and send the add gift that we had earlier. But I don't have the access to the value of my entry. To do that, I need to store it in my model. So I will have the entry text that is also a string. Since it's part of my initial model, I will need to tell that when the application starts, there is no value in it. And here I will need to bind it to the entry. So I will say that the text of my entry is equal to my entry text of my state. And also when the text changes, I want it to tell me the new value. So here I will say text change, and I will get the value that the event is giving me. So text change event arg, and I will get a new text value for it. So like add gift, I will need to add a new entry. So it's entry text change of string. So now I can pass it that one, and in the here we also see that it says that my pattern matching is incomplete. It's missing the entry text change. So I will need to add it with the new just the name, the value part. Sorry, and I will just store that new value in my state. Just as before, model with entry text equals value. And now I have bound my entry to the entry text property of my state. So we can say whenever you click the button, you will dispatch the add gift message, and you will send the current model.entry text to it. So now I will when I click on the button, it will take the value that is currently displayed in my text box, and it will add it to the gift list, and hopefully it will redraw the application and show it in the list here. So if I add a new item like a phone for Tom, okay, add to list, it will appear in my list here. So now I notice that the entry is not cleared because so we can change that behavior. So when I click the button, I am currently just updating the gift list, but I can also say I want to reset the entry. So it's reloading. So here we saw that the phone are disappeared because live update does not currently keep the current state of the application. It reuse the initial state. So here I can re-add phone for Tom, click on add, and this time the phone is displayed in the list. So now I can add other things. Can add other things to the list. Okay, now what I want to do is to make sure that everything is removed from so I can check off the gifts from my list. like that's also very easy. You can, since you can do F# code directly in your UI, you will have just to say like I want to change my my text to be strike through when I check off the box. So here I can say if model, if gift, sorry, if gift dot is bought, then I will add text decoration dot strike through. Otherwise, I will add text decoration dot none. So if my gift is bought, I will add strike through. Otherwise, I won't do anything. So I forgot to bind my my checkbox. So let's say if checked change, you will dispatch another event like gift bought, where you will give me the value, and just like before, I will add a new case, gift bought for pool. And now I can just finally add the gift bought case here. And change my gift. So I will change the gift in my list. So I go and enumerate my gift, and I map it so I can access the gift. So this one I want it to be actually the gift. I want to change. Okay, so if the currently gift in my list is the same one as the one I had checked off, so I want it to be changed with the isBought equals not g.isBought. So I just toggle off toggle on the bought flag, and otherwise I just return the same thing. And just like before, I update the gift list with the new gift list I just made. Okay, so this one here is not value, it's the gift, the current gift cell. Okay, so now it's saying that I have errors. It's not gift, it's gifts. Okay, so it's recompiling, and now when I check the box, it's adding strike through. So for now, let's return to the slides. So I don't know if you have any questions, or I would just go to the chat. Okay. Okay, so no questions for now. Okay, so let's continue. So I will accelerate a bit since I'm a bit late. So we took play from current slide. All right. Okay, so now we saw what's the typical Hello World application. But what if you want to go in a production app that is way more complex than that? So one of the advantage of Feblos is that since it's using functional programming and MVU, you can the way you will structure your application is through composability through composition. So MVU is really great for that, since we saw that MVU is really 5 parts. So the models, the messages, the init function, the update function, and the view function. And all that can be applied to anything in your application. So here I made an entire application using MVU, but we can also make smaller MVU programs. Like you can make a complete MVU program for a single page. So if your application has multiple pages, you will have as many MVU programs than you have pages, and you will have a bigger MVU program that will be your full applications that will call all those little programs. So it can be used for any level of granularity. Like if you want to make a really complex button that has many states and everything, you can make just an MVU program just for it that you will compose inside bigger applications, so inside bigger programs to make your final application. So like we saw during the demo, Faebulous only provides wrappers for first-party domain forms control, so all the label, buttons, stack layout, grid, and there is a lot of them. But you might need to use third-party controls. So one you find in NuGet packages, or one from well-known distributors like Telerik, Syncfusion, and many others. So for all of those, in the documentation of Faebulous, you will find how to create wrappers for them. So it's really simple. It's really just a couple of lines of codes to just to wrap them. So you can use them in your UI in Faebulous. So like we saw during the demo, the prototyping is extremely fast with F# and Faebulous. So F# will provide you with a code that is always correct. So there is no null, there is nothing you need to check to be sure your code works. So the compiler will do a lot of work to ensure that your code is correct, and will fail if your code is not correct. So once it's compiled, it's pretty sure that it will work. And Faebulous, like we saw with live update, gives you very fast feedback, so we can iterate and change that thing, change the color, change the font, and everything. So it's really fast to prototype. And also it's really great to test your code, since like we saw that the init, update, and view functions are called pure functions. So that's functions that will not have any side effect. So it's super simple to unit test them. So I have an example here. If I show you this code, so that's an example from the Faebulous repository. Okay, so here I have a sample application called the counter app. And it's the same thing than what we saw just with the template. So you have a count, a step, and timer on, where you can increment, decrement, reset, and everything. And since we have our functions here, we can actually unit test them by calling them with the required parameters and see if they return the correct values. So here we are using NUnit and FSUnit to unit test. So here I have, for example, the init test. So init should return a valid initial state. So I will declare my initial state, what I'm expecting. I want a count equal to 0, step equals to 1, and a timer at false. I call app.init, and I'm checking that it's really the correct initial state. It's same for all the other functions. So the update function, for example, I've given the message increment. Update should increment count using step. So I'm saying here is my initial model. Here is the expected state once I'm clicking on the increment button. So I'm calling the update function and saying I received an increment message. Here was my initial model. So now it should be this state. And also for the view, you can unit test your view, because since it's just a function that returns a UI, so the UI is not really the actual control that is displayed on the screen. It's not the UI kit button or anything. It's just a description of what the button should be. Just so like a dictionary of key values. So the text should be this value. The horizontal alignment should be centered, and so on. So you can actually check that those value in the dictionaries. So here we can say, here is my state. I'm calling the view function with this state, and I will check that the count label text is equal to 5, that the switch is toggled on, that the step slider is equal to 4, and everything. So you can test anything, even checking that you have correctly bound your button. So here is the increment button. When I'm calling the command function, I'm expecting it to send the increment message. So you can test you can really test anything with Faebulous. It's that simple to do that. So that's really great. And if I'm returning to the slides, you can also load at any time the model, the state of your application. Like, for example, on mobile development, when your users switch from your app to another app, so maybe it's using your app and then it's switching to Twitter, the phone can kill your application to keep battery and to keep memory. So at this time, iOS and Android will warn you that the application will stop. You can save the state of your application at that time. For when your user comes back to your application, you can reload it, and the user does not lose what he was doing on your application. So since all the state of the application is inside the model, you can simply serialize the model when iOS or Android tells you that the application will be stopped. And when your application restarts in the init function, you can take the model you serialized and just rehydrate it to go back to the state where your application was. So that's great also. And so performance-wise, Faebulous is really performant. So like I said just before, the view function does not create all the controls every time. It just gives a description of what the UI should be, and it will do differential updates with it. So it will take the UI description of the previous time and the new UI description, and it will check the differences between those two, and only applies the updates, the things that change. So the UI is updated with the latest data. So it's doing a lot of caching and reuse of UI elements. So you can also you also have a bunch of tools to help Faebulous be efficient in the caching and reuse of UI elements. And the neat thing also is that since it's all based on Xamarin, you have access to all the tools like Xamarin has. So like the linker, the profiler, or even external tools like App Center, where you can upload your app, run UI test for them on real devices, and push it to the store and everything. So I have some examples to showcase. So here is the Faebulous context sample app Ahmed. So it's a contact manager application. So it's a real world like. So you can add contacts to a list. You can edit them. You can delete them. You have validation rules. You have a map to see where your contacts are. So it's available on the Google Play Store and on the App Store. It's using multiple pages. It's using SQLite for the data storage. and it's using many device APIs to access your camera, your maps, or the geolocation. So you can find all the code on the github.com/teamlariviere/fabulous contacts if you're interested. There is also Fabulous Planets. So this one is a solar system planet explorer. So you can see in 3D all the planets of the solar system. So this one will show you how to use third-party libraries like Hero 3D for doing 3D. So it's same as before. You can find it on github.com/teamlariviere/fabulous-planets. And lastly, this one is a real application that is in production today. That's called Tawazal. It's a messenger, a super app that you can chat on it. You can do video conferencing. You can also have various services like the result of a match, of a football match. So this one is available on Google Play and App Store. You can find also more about it on tawazal.ae, and you can also find a testimony on the GitHub documentation for Fabulous. So if you're interested. And if you want to contribute, so here is the link for the GitHub repository, so github.com/fsproject/fabulous. You have the documentation here on GitHub.io. You can also find two videos on Channel 9 for an introduction to Fabulous, so basically what I did for this meetup. And you can also find more about MDU for Fabulous. And there's several blog posts on the Microsoft blog site. Okay, so thanks to DH for organizing this meetup. So DH is a company making software for hotels and online receivers. So it can be all interconnected. And if you're interested about DH, there is a multiple job opening that you can find here. And if you're interested for more, either go to the dh.welcomekit.co website, or you can contact Salimata at this email address. So stay tuned for the next meetup that is planned for mid-January. And thank you for attending this meetup. If you have any question, I can answer them right now. So do not hesitate to write your question in the chat. I hope this meetup was interesting and that you enjoyed it. Okay, great. So Alois, I'm not sure what you meant by Android does not support Xamarin. Oh, okay. An alternative store. So okay, I was not aware that F-Droid was an alternative store that you could not upload Xamarin apps. Yeah, so the replay link will be available later on the meetup page, so you can find it there after it has been uploaded. we can stop here. So I will let you continue with whatever you planned after that. So thanks everyone for attending this meetup, and see you next time. Thanks.